This is actually saving lives and changing lives. We're on the cusp of it, and it's exciting. It only took me, 35 years to get this job, but here we are.
The clicking part of the EHR, a lot of people don't like, but I think that's where the important part of the EHR is. That's where your diagnoses and the population health comes in. The nuisance,
You have to do it right. You have to play the game right.
Yes.
the nuisance
Unequivocally.
part, the
Yes.
nuisance part is the white boxes, the storytelling and
Yeah.
the plan. That's what takes time, and that's what physicians hate. If you could somehow get rid of that, I'll gladly click all your boxes because it takes me 2 minutes and I can still talk to people.
I think what we need to do is show the connection between those boxes that they click and the outcome. Like when you do this right, when you keep track of things clinically in your practice, what are the advantages? How are kids being helped? Right now, it's too much. Well, they told me so, and I got to click these things. You don't know. You don't get feedback. You can't tell. And we were talking earlier before we started about some of the data that, I brought some data to the table today. And the data doesn't tell the whole story. We're looking at this one piece, this narrative that shows, please don't hang anything on this because we don't know what it shows. But it shows that the incidence in at least PCC client practices, I want to be very clear about what I'm saying. The incidence of kids showing up in PCC client practices with DKA the last year or so has gone down quite a bit, but the incidence of kids showing up with hyperglycemia has gone up quite a bit, which is those two things are separating. There's so many valid reasons for that happening, some of which are good, some of which are not good. And I can't tell because the way we use EHRs, that narrative is hard to discern. Each one of you, as physicians, said it could be this and could be this. And at each time we were like, yep, it could be. Okay. It could be that kids with DKA are not going into the practices. They're going straight to the ER. And it could be that the practices are getting a little bit better at identifying hyperglycemia earlier. So it's showing up in the diagnoses. It could also just be that more kids are getting T1D, which we have evidence to support. And so that's why we're seeing more hyperglycemia. It could be a couple things. And in order to figure this out, when you take all the kids in Dan's network and you take all the kids in PCC's network, there's enough data there that we should be able to understand stuff, but we need the doctors, like George was saying, we need the doctors to click the right boxes so we can connect the dots.
Correct.
So the first thing that you guys could do together would be to try to get the number of type 1 diabetes in both of your registries.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's identifying the current population within both EHRs. How many kids do we have with type 1 diabetes? How many siblings do they have? How many siblings do they have of a particular age if we decide that we want to screen kids? And we'll talk about screening here in a minute. And I would also add that we have to think about other diseases that are related to that. And so we have to not only look, in this case, at kids with type 1 diabetes, but how many siblings have celiac disease? Or how many kids have celiac disease? And are those kids that a clinician should consider with certain histories and certain situations? Do I want to screen the other siblings for not only autoantibodies for celiac disease, but really think about type 1 diabetes? And it's that ability of using a pediatric EHR, which is thinking broader than just type 1 diabetes, but the connection with celiac disease. So you're right, Herb. We want to identify the populations, and the specific related diseases and conditions. I'm really excited about capabilities to do that.
Yep.
So that first step seems to be pretty simple from a mechanics point of view, right? You just run a query. We don't know the quality of the data, right? Somebody forgets to put somebody could say syncope as the initial diagnosis for a type 1D at presentation with DKA because they passed out and sent it to the ER. But we would get a general idea of how many kids. And I'm guessing it's going to be something every year around, I think it was 2,000,